Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Faith begins where the will of God is.
COVID-19!
COVID-19!
Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. Faith begins where the will of God is known. The public collapse of Kenneth Copeland has shocked evangelical circles, unraveling a story of faith, authority, and treachery. His empire, once praised as a spiritual leadership, is now in disarray due to allegations of marital strife and legal misbehavior. Copeland's sentence appears certain, with whispers of his final reckoning floating around. Goodbyes always last, but what does this mean for his legacy and the church he built? Few names in contemporary Christianity carry as much weight as Kenneth Copeland's, which grew from humble beginnings to global prominence before the scandals, rumors of scandals, and mounting challenges threatened his legacy. But before that, there was an inspiring story of resiliency and will. Copeland's rise from humble beginnings to global prominence was as surprising as the unexpected path his life has recently taken. Born in Lubbock, Texas, on December 6, 1936, Copeland grew up in a small town where his family struggled financially, shaping his views on wealth. He worked odd jobs, including as a car salesman, before becoming a global religious celebrity. Surprisingly, he first pursued a career in music, but his musical career was never particularly successful. However, it did highlight his natural appeal and ability to connect with audiences. This brief career in the entertainment industry had a significant impact on his public speaking and stage presence, which would later define his success as a preacher. His life took another turn when he began training as a pilot during his 1960s Oral Roberts University studies, working as a pilot and chauffeur for the well-known televangelist. This close mentoring relationship with Roberts had a significant impact on Copeland's ministry outlook. Seeing Roberts's innovative use of television and massive crusades inspired Copeland to envision a global platform of comparable scale. In 1962, Copeland experienced a spiritual awakening that changed the course of his life. After seeking guidance and closely studying the Bible, he sensed a divine calling to devote his life to service. This marked a watershed moment in his life as he transitioned from secular interests to devoted ministry. Beginning locally, Copeland gained attention for his fiery sermons emphasizing faith-based lessons. He set himself apart right away by combining personal appeal with a message of faith and success. Kenneth and his third wife, Gloria, had founded Kenneth Copeland Ministries, KCM, in Fort Worth, Texas by 1967. They began by recording radio shows and organizing small gatherings, but Copeland's vision soon expanded to include television. His message of faith, prosperity, and unwavering belief in promises reached millions via the Believer's Voice of Victory broadcast, which began in the late 1970s. This program became a pillar of KCM, spreading his message throughout the United States and eventually the world. By the 1980s, Kenneth Copeland had established himself as a household name in evangelical circles, and his ministry was expanding internationally. However, as his influence grew, so did the scrutiny. Initially a story of faith and tenacity, his journey has now veered unexpectedly into questions about the very foundations of the legacy he established. How could a man who once inspired millions face such unprecedented challenges? The very lessons that propelled him to popularity were soon scrutinized, paving the way for an unexpected and shocking turn. As Kenneth Copeland's ministry grew into a global empire, flaws in the foundation of his message emerged, exposing a darker side to his rise. Although he had achieved what many would consider the pinnacle of evangelical success, concerns about the theology and practices that supported his empire began to emerge. Theologians and former adherents began pointing out Copeland's divisive views, particularly his support for the prosperity gospel. He supported the Word of Faith movement, which promised believers that faith combined with generous donations could result in divine blessings such as health, wealth, and success. Others, however, saw it as a distortion of Christian doctrine that emphasized materialism over spiritual development. Observers claimed Copeland was abusing his followers' trust by encouraging them to plant financial seeds in his ministry in the hopes of receiving divine rewards. The legitimacy of the prosperity gospel has long been debated among theologians and religious academics. Critics argue that it simplifies difficult biblical lessons into a transactional formula in which faith and donations are viewed as keys to unlocking God's favor. Reverend David Jones, a renowned movement critic, described it as a dangerous theology that prioritizes personal gain over spiritual truth. Similarly, pastor and author John Piper criticized the prosperity gospel, claiming that it distorts Christianity's core by shifting the emphasis from eternal redemption to earthly riches. Stories of followers who generously donated to his ministry, expecting miraculous financial breakthroughs that never materialized, have also surfaced. These stories raised ethical concerns about how Copeland's ideas affected vulnerable people seeking hope. Copeland remained unwavering in the face of mounting criticism. In his sermons and interviews, he defended the prosperity gospel as a divine truth, arguing that God wants his people to thrive in all aspects of life. He insisted that his lessons were based on Scripture and could help Christians overcome adversity. Criticism also focused on Kenneth Copeland's way of life. His wealth, estimated at more than $300 million, is unparalleled in the world of televangelism. Many people find a stark contrast between his ostentatious wealth display and the biblical concepts of humility and modesty he promotes. This raised an important issue. How did a man who once believed in faith and sacrifice become the embodiment of extreme material success? Here the story takes another turn. Though Copeland's teachings on the prosperity gospel have long been contentious, it is his personal lifestyle that has transformed abstract theological debates into genuine public outrage. As one of the wealthiest televangelists in history, he lives an unrivaled lifestyle that both reflects his abundance message and serves as a lightning rod for criticism. Copeland's lavish lifestyle revolves around his 1,500-acre Fort Worth, Texas estate, worth more than $7 million. This estate, which he claims supports his ministerial responsibilities, consists of his main house, a massive 18,000-square-foot lakeside mansion that he refers to as a parsonage, with 6 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, several living areas, and a private dock with stunning views of Eagle Mountain Lake. The house exemplifies grand-scale wealth. However, it is not only Copeland's home that has sparked outrage. He owns several private aircraft, including a Gulfstream V jet worth nearly $20 million. Investigative reporters covering how this jet was purchased with ministry funds sparked national interest. Copeland defended the purchase, claiming it was necessary for his ministry's global reach and would allow him to travel without the distractions of commercial flights. His infamous remark, which infuriated and made people laugh, was that flying on commercial airlines was like being in a long tube with demons. In addition to his Gulfstream V, Copeland owns other aircraft that are kept at a private airport on his Texas property. Kenneth Copeland Airport serves as his home base for both personal and ministerial travel. Critics have pointed out the irony of his ostentatious flying equipment, especially given his frequent sermons encouraging followers to live modestly and tithe to his ministry for divine rewards. Aside from his jets and estate, Copeland's ostentatious purchases include luxury cars, designer clothing, and expensive accessories. He has been seen driving luxury cars and wearing high-end brand suits while encouraging his followers to generously support his ministry. Many people find a stark contrast between extravagant displays of wealth and biblical concepts of humility and stewardship. Despite criticism, Copeland remains open about his wealth. He has consistently stated that his wealth is a result of God's blessings and a reward for his faithfulness. In his lectures, he frequently emphasizes that financial abundance is part of God's covenant with believers, so he views his lifestyle as a reflection of divine favor rather than excess. Kenneth Copeland sees riches as both a tool for ministry and a source of controversy. Although his supporters admire his unwavering acceptance of wealth, some see his lifestyle as typical of the excesses that plague televangelism. One thing is clear: regardless of perspective, Kenneth Copeland's luxurious lifestyle remains as divisive as his ministry. Kenneth Copeland's ascent to popularity as one of the most powerful televangelists has been accompanied by much controversy. From his dramatic lectures to his extravagant lifestyle, Copeland has drawn great attention and debate. However, his behavior during pivotal events such as the COVID-19 pandemic has magnified public and religious community criticism. During the COVID-19 outbreak, one of the most well-known debates about Copeland arose in March 2020. Copeland sparked widespread interest after claiming to be blowing God's wind to wipe out the virus. The dramatic performance, watched by his millions of followers, was met with contempt and incredulity, with critics claiming he was spreading false information and thus jeopardizing public health initiatives. Copeland was also chastised for downplaying the severity of the virus and encouraging followers to rely on faith rather than taking precautions such as mask wearing and vaccinations. Copeland has also come under fire for making questionable claims about miraculous healings over the years. He has claimed to be able to heal illnesses through faith, frequently encouraging followers to plant financial seeds in his ministry in exchange for blessings. Critics argue that these promises exploit people's faith for financial gain, preying on the vulnerable, particularly those with chronic conditions or financial difficulties. Investigations by media outlets have revealed stories of people who donated large sums of money to Copeland Ministries but received no tangible benefits, leading to charges of false hope and spiritual manipulation. Copeland's close ties to political figures as well as his public support for specific candidates have caused significant controversy. Copeland has been outspoken in his support for specific ideas, whereas many religious leaders have taken a neutral stance on political issues, leading to accusations that he is using his platform to influence voters. His fiery election comments, which are frequently laced with religious overtones, have offended some of his audience and sparked criticism from those who believe he blurs the line between religion and politics. Aside from these well-publicized disagreements, Copeland's ministry has also been chastised for encouraging a culture of financial secrecy and silence. Former staff members and insiders have accused him of maintaining strict control over the ministry's operations, including refusals to provide financial data to donors or staff. Though his company is non-profit, fund distribution issues and a lack of transparency have persisted for decades. Kenneth Copeland's theological foundations have also been called into question. Some theologians have criticized his ideas on spiritual warfare, which include claims about defeating demonic forces and exercising divine authority, for allegedly departing from traditional Christian doctrine. Copeland's dramatic displays of faith, such as casting out spirits and speaking in tongues, have also been called into question. While some of his followers regard these presentations as powerful expressions of faith, others dismiss them as manipulative or excessive. Despite these controversies, Copeland remains a pillar of televangelism. He typically portrays himself as a man of faith confronted by a society that has misinterpreted his divine mission. Copeland's supporters see these issues as spiritual warfare, and he serves God as a warrior. These controversies create a complex backdrop for discussions on responsibility and the impact of eminent religious leaders, heightening the appeal of the rumors about his sentence. Though there are questions about Kenneth Copeland's political affiliations, lavish lifestyle and teachings, his financial behavior now threatens to overshadow his legacy. Copeland, who has long been accused of abusing his ministry's tax-exempt status and misallocating charitable funds, has been the subject of public scrutiny and investigation for decades. However, the stakes appear to be higher this time around. The accusations are serious. Insiders and leaked reports indicate that Copeland uses charity money, in addition to alleged tax evasion, implying that he could face both charges. According to reputable sources, Copeland's ministry is currently being accused of mismanaging millions of dollars intended for charitable purposes. For Copeland, the issue of charitable fund misuse is not new. The nonprofit watchdog Trinity Foundation, which tracks religious organizations, filed complaints in 2015 alleging Kenneth Copeland Ministries' financial mismanagement. The allegations revolve around money donated by supporters for charitable causes being used to support Copeland's extravagant lifestyle, which includes private planes, luxury cars, and his sprawling 18,000-square-foot Texas estate. Copeland denied these charges at the time, but critics have long argued that his ministry's lack of financial transparency makes such allegations plausible. However, the most recent incident appears to have exacerbated the situation significantly. According to sources familiar with the investigation, federal authorities are looking into a recent case involving millions of dollars in charity funds that were allegedly diverted for personal use. Documents allegedly show discrepancies in the distribution of these funds, with large sums missing or associated with non-ministerial expenses. Long-standing issues for Kenneth Copeland's ministry, tax evasion claims have recently reached a tipping point. Federal authorities appear to be looking closely into his alleged use of tax breaks intended for religious organizations as well as his failure to report significant income. Critics claim that his extravagant lifestyle, which includes private planes, luxury cars, and a $7 million estate, is funded by his nonprofit ministry. One significant event that brought these issues to light was the U.S. Senate's 2007 investigation into several televangelists, including Copeland and their financial policies. Under the direction of Senator Chuck Grassley, it sought to determine whether agencies like Copeland's were avoiding taxes by misusing donations. However, Copeland's ministry refused to send important records and financial documentation, preventing compliance. Although the investigation eventually came to a halt, it raised public awareness about the questionable financial practices of well-known religious organizations, with investigators allegedly discovering evidence of unreported income related to ministry donations. The most recent allegations point to a more direct tax law violation. Insiders claim that Copeland's ministry may have diverted large sums of money into personal accounts or expenses without reporting them, thereby avoiding tax liabilities. To add to the gravity of the situation, credible sources claimed that a Copeland ministry whistleblower provided critical information, prompting federal authorities to step up their investigation. If true, this insider information could be disastrous for the televangelist, confirming years of allegations that Copeland has abused his nonprofit status to enrich himself while avoiding accountability. Although Kenneth Copeland and his ministry have not publicly responded to these allegations, the conversation surrounding the matter has grown louder. Legal professionals familiar with the case have reportedly told media outlets that Copeland may be imprisoned. Some have also stated that if he is found guilty, his sentence will be final. Kenneth Copeland's problems appear to extend beyond the courtroom. As the legal battles and financial scandals escalate, insiders believe he may have carried the stress into his personal life. In his decades-long marriage to Gloria Copeland, there are whispers of strife. According to close sources, they are currently dealing with previously unknown difficulties, raising the question of whether the once stiff Copeland household is about to collapse. Bye-bye forever. Marital problems and cheating among the mounting controversies surrounding Kenneth Copeland have garnered a lot of attention. Gloria has been a pillar of Copeland's ministry for many years, supporting him through good and bad times. Recent whispers, however, suggest that their decades-long relationship is deteriorating. Insiders speculate that Kenneth may be having another affair, casting doubt on the future of their decades-long marriage. Although the most recent accusations remain unproven, they have reignited interest in a related historical allegation. Some sources claim Copeland's relationship with his second wife, Cynthia Davis, began while he was still legally married to Ivy Botteford, implying infidelity. His first marriage ended in divorce in 1958. These previous charges were publicly contested and lacked hard evidence, but given the current unrest, their relevance has become clear. Gloria, a longtime supporter of her husband and his work, may finally be at her breaking point. According to family sources, tensions erupted during a recent family gathering when Gloria allegedly yelled, "I'm done with you, goodbye permanently." This startling comment has fueled speculation about whether their marriage will survive the current crisis. "Goodbye forever" has become increasingly important because it represents the possibility of a breakup in their relationship. As the story progresses, many people begin to wonder whether the Copelands' once unwavering bond can withstand the storm, or if saying goodbye will always be a certainty. As Kenneth Copeland's legal battles, potential sentence, and alleged marital strife continue to make headlines, the future of his ministry appears increasingly uncertain. For decades, Copeland's charismatic leadership and vast evangelical empire have been a source of strength for Kenneth Copeland Ministries, KCM, which has millions of followers who value his teachings and contributions to the prosperity gospel. However, given the gravity of the growing controversies surrounding him, one wonders how these events will affect his ministry in the future. The specter of a final sentence, whether legal, financial, or personal, now hangs heavily over the ministry. Charges of tax evasion, financial mismanagement, and marital strife threaten to undermine Copeland's carefully cultivated image of faith and success. Although his supporters remain devoted, it is unclear how his most recent claims will affect public opinion in general. Many detractors argue that such scandals may result in a loss of credibility, undermining his influence within evangelical circles. Furthermore, insiders believe KCM may struggle to maintain its large donor base. Copeland's problems attract more media attention, jeopardizing the ministry's reputation and potentially changing its financial situation. Though it is unclear how these issues will shape Copeland's legacy, many people face significant uncertainty. Kenneth Copeland Ministries' future is dependent on the outcome of both legal and personal trials. The loyalty of his supporters will be tested as these events unfold, and Copeland's ability to navigate these difficult circumstances will define the long-term course of his work. What results do you think these trials will produce? Please leave your comments in the comments section. Thank you for watching. See you in the upcoming video.